Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Cafecito Virtual with CFNC in Español. We have a very special guest today that is joining us for this cafecito. We're going to be talking with Juanito Jorge Hernandez, who is going to be interning with us this year. And so we are very excited to have Juanito join us for this cafecito virtual. And so we also have my colleague, Dr. Juanes Ramirez. Juanes, you wanna say hi?
Yes, hola, hola. Feliz de estar aquí. Happy to be here. Cheers.
Yeah, so this cafecito virtual is going to be an opportunity to get to know Juanito a little bit better. Juanito's going to be with us for a few months, and so we just feel like it's really important for you all to know who Juanito is and hear a little bit about his story. So Juanito, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Juana and Juanes, for having me today. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward just to sharing a little bit about myself and just allowing everybody to get to know a little something more about me that they may or may not know.
Awesome. And salud, salud, salud. I have my cafecito here. So salud, I know it's like, good time for coffee, get energized. But Juanito, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you join our CFNC en Español familia, because in reality, that's what we are, right? We are a family, we're a familia. Once you join us, you're gonna stay connected with us forever. But tell us a little bit about Juanito.
Yeah, so I'm from Eastern North Carolina, a small town called Wallace. It's a very rural but close-knit community. Um, Growing up here, I've been able to learn a lot about like what it means to like have a family, have a community, being able to rely on others. And, growing up, I've been able to, take those values to Chapel Hill, for instance, where I attend for undergrad. And, I have my bachelor's in human development, or will be obtaining my bachelor's in human development and family science here soon. So, just being able to like gain those skills and, really cherish where I came from and the role models I've had growing up here in rural Eastern NC and being able to, share those values and my ideas in Chapel Hill have been something that I really appreciate and really appreciate getting that experience to be able to meet other people. So yeah. I
Didn't
can't
realize I
seem to
was
hear
muted.
you.
Yes, I'm telling you, look, I'm over here muted. So I was asking, so you're from um Wallace, North Carolina, which is in Duplin County, right?
Mhm.
So tell us, and you talked about attending UNC Chapel Hill. Um, Tell us a little bit more about what that journey to higher education, what was that journey like?
Yeah, so growing up, I had a mother and a father. They didn't go to high school, either or. And like, I remember them always telling my siblings and I from little that school is something that I want you all to push through. I want you all to graduate, do something that we didn't do. And they always used, the thing of like, oh, if you don't go to school or, you don't pursue higher education, you may have to be doing what we're doing, but we want more from you. Always trying to push that ideology. Going to elementary school all the way, through middle school, I never was the best academically for a while. Of course, I didn't have that community, like that sense of, having my parents be able to, personally help me through school because, again, they didn't finish high school. And, I didn't have those resources of like having a tutor and stuff like that. So I really had to like change gears a little bit and approach school a little differently and like try to apply myself more just because I didn't have those resources to really like back me up. I didn't really have that foundation. So it's something I really had to like structure myself and work towards. And a lot of time and a lot of my time like going through elementary to middle school, I had a lot of like teachers who really didn't think that I was capable of enough. So, on top of all of that, those beliefs and then like my own of just struggling because, I didn't have those resources, I often believe that, oh, I couldn't go to college, or, I couldn't do something that others could do because I feel like I'm limited to only what is like around me. However, there was a transition, I could say around probably 7th or 8th grade, where I was like, you know what? I'm no longer going to allow people's views around me, or who or about me, let that determine my future, my goals, and the way I play out life. So I really took time to, like, change gears. I really had to work harder than my peers, to be at the same pace they were at. And if I wanted to be ahead of them, I would have to work even harder. So there were those instances. And going into high school, um, I worked really hard, try to, communicate with my teachers effectively, and I let them know that I'm here to learn and willing to ask questions, which I always did. So like starting out in high school, I wasn't in any honors classes. And, I worked really hard that whole year. And I, like, I talked to them, they knew who I was. They saw that I applied myself more than my other peers in the classroom. And they wrote me recommendation letters to, like, my guidance counselors at my high school to say, hey, he's ready for honors. Let him take those next year. Well, I ended up, things happen in life. I ended up having to move high schools. So I took those recommendation letters and took all that stuff to my new high school that I ended up attending, which was Wallace Rose Hill. The guidance counselor there was super, super helpful and allowed me to get into all the honors classes I needed to and transition easily. And, I just worked to apply myself. And I knew that working hard um, is one way of me, being able to start this college journey that I knew I wanted to go for. But like, I still in the back of my mind, I had no idea of like how to prepare for college, how to, I didn't have the resources for that yet, still at that point. So, here I am working, talking with teachers, guidance counselors, and trying to involve myself with like any extracurricular. And one day, there was this person named Mr. Lee. He was part of the Upward Bound program, and he like just basically like talked with students at my high school and explained what the program was and what they did. And right there I saw that as an opportunity to be able to, you know, lead me to something greater, which it ended up doing. But taking in the opportunity during the summer, we would have like classes in a sense, like we had a schedule, and they would prepare us for like the next year following classes. It went on for, I believe, like 6 weeks, and we would tour colleges like every Friday. We would do ACT, SAT prep. We would prepare for like all different kinds of subjects like English, math, science, history, just to go ahead and give us the foot in the door, I guess you could say, ahead, so we knew what to feel for, what to expect coming into a new school year. So I was definitely appreciative of having those resources just at my fingertips to be able to, have someone I could rely on, text, or if I ever needed anything, which I'm very grateful for. So I've utilized them. Here comes junior, senior year. And I'm trying to involve myself more with other clubs. And I joined, like, I believe the club was called like the College Ambassadors, like with our college advisor. And this is like the time where you're like hearing about, oh, college readiness. At one point in time, I would really had my mind set on like going to UNCW, and was like that. I was like, that's the school I'm gonna go to. That's the school I'm going to. But then, like, because for me at least, I feel like I get so like I get tunnel vision. It's like I see one thing, I want to go for it, but I end up taking a step back, touring more colleges, getting the experience, being able to take any opportunity I could to go to other college campuses, like review on websites, just looking around. And speaking with my college advisor, and they were able to, just like recommend and help me through the process of applying through college, ensuring that I had everything on track as far as like FAFSA, what I needed, sharing my circumstances and what best would fit for me. Also, I'd like to mention that during high school, I took advantage of a lot of dual enrollment, which I highly recommend that if you do have the opportunity to do, if like AP is not always an option, to always take advantage of, because dual enrollment gets you that college credit. And I'm very, very appreciative of that and being able to like, take advantage of that, because I was able to in high school complete my first year at high school of, college classes. So getting those prereqs out of the way as much as possible. COVID ended up happening, and I was originally supposed to go to UNCG. That's where I had hoped to go. I had everything ready. I was like, okay, I got my dorm stuff, like, got dorms ready to pick out, everything. And then I sat and talked with my mom, and we're like, is this really the best thing for me at this moment? And we've talked about it because, then again, like I mentioned before, like family, something that's always important to me. And, being able to, help at home, but also being able to pursue my education still. We talked about it. I reached out to the people at Upward Bound. I was like, hey, I understand, like, I may be too late to apply for like the President Scholarship, because, there was a deadline if we were intending to go to like a community college. And they talked to the president of the school, and he okayed for me to send in an application. And I decided there, I was like, I'll do the rest of my year at home remotely, especially since COVID was a thing during that time. Take consideration of like my health, people around me, and, just waiting things out just to see how, school where you go. I did that, completed it. And I was at a time where like I was doing really well, working, doing, my classes, and then college process comes up all over again. You come to a point where you're like, okay, in high school, you have like this college, you're preparing to go to college and hopefully stay at that university or wherever you decide to go. But, I kind of went all over the place a little bit, going from planning on going to a 4-year school to a community college. So then I had to sit down and like, okay, I gotta, get on these college applications again, because, now I'm gonna have to take a different route. I'm a transfer student. I gotta realize no longer going from high school to a 4-year school. So I did that, and I reached back out to my college advisor from my high school and, used Upward Bound, even though I wasn't in the program anymore, but used those, familiar faces and, as a resource for me, because they knew who I was. They understood my circumstances and wanted to help me fulfill my dreams, because, then again, like I mentioned, this is me first time trying to, put my foot out there, because, I am a first gen college student. They helped me, come up with like they helped me find fee waivers to apply for college. So they allowed me to take advantage of that. They also helped write me recommendation letters, helped me through the college application process. I ended up applying to UNC. That was the only school I ended up applying to as a transfer student. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this as just a shot and just see if I get in. If I don't, I'll try again another year. But let me just see. Okay, so then a few months go by. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be hearing something back, but I haven't got an email yet. And one day my mom picks me up from work, and I look at my email and it says that, oh, you got a decision. I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I got a decision. I'm kind of nervous to open it. And she's driving us home. And I open it and it says, congratulations, like I got in. And like at that moment, I felt like this is everything aligning up to like what I needed. Yes, I had all those struggles from the beginning of people doubting me, not seeing that I was capable of. However, that moment right there really showed that no matter what others say, you're always capable of doing more. Like those expectations they have for you are not going to determine or dictate how your life goes. So I'm just very appreciative of like those individuals around me, because they really pushed me, to strive and, shoot for the stars. Because, I would have never thought that this would be an opportunity I could do. So yeah, I attended UNC, and, going into school, I went in as a psychology major, hoping that, I could possibly, figure out what I really wanted to do there. I always heard like from people I talk to from UNC and like, being able to like to just speak with other students, they're like, I express my interests to them of how I want to be able to, like give back to my community. I really like to focus on rural areas, people like me who struggled similarly like me. And there's like, hey, there's this really good major at the School of Education called Human Development and Family Science. You should give it a chance. I'm like, but they're like, you have to apply to get in to that major. So you got to apply to the school to get in. So at that time of point, I was like, okay, I am so tired of like applying to, things at that moment. So I'm just going to wait it out, see how psychology goes. Well, there was one class that was a little rough. And I was like, you know what? Let me just suck it up and do this application. So I ended up doing the application and I heard back the following semester and it said, you've been admitted to the School of Education, here's your major. And then there was that moment again of feeling like, oh, everything's starting to align up.
Right.
It's always like these uphill battles. Like you got one moment where you're feeling like, I feel like my head's underwater, but I kind of need like a life raft or something to like lift me up. And it was like one of those. And here I am, going through that. And I was happy because I was able to get in the major. Being able to specifically like go to the School of Education at UNC has been something I'm very appreciative of because I've been able to like meet really great like people and use them as really great resources for me. And like the School of Ed has been something where it's taught me a lot about different people, different populations, and understanding that everybody's experiences are so vastly different and just being able to take those into consideration. So I'm just very appreciative up to this point of currently in my life of how it's been laid out. Because like looking back, if I was talking to my younger self, I would have never imagined that I would have attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And like that's something forever that my mom always brags about. Because I'm a first gen student. Yeah, and then
Your mama better be bragging. She better be bragging.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just been really exciting to see, and she's been very supportive about hard decisions I've had to make. Just going with the flow with life because she understands life's not easy. She didn't do these things, and she wants to see me do these good things, and then just continue that, so on and so forth.
And you're going to do amazing things. You have already done amazing things. You're going to continue to do amazing things. And thank you so much for sharing about your educational experiences and your journey. And as you were talking, I was reflecting on like my own experiences, right? And even like the experiences that we see and working with our community, right? We and I think that this is why I love working for CFNC, because we are so invested and our community and helping students achieve their post-secondary academic goals, right? And so this is why, like, to me, it's such a privilege to be part of the CFNC and Español familia and the CFNC and Español team. And so we really have an opportunity to make a difference and to help students like you, Juanito, right? You mentioned that you there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of doubt that was kind of like instilled in you because of what others thought, because of other people. But one day you said, no, that's enough. We are not doing this. I'm going to go after what I want. I'm going to go after my goals. I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to reach those goals that I have. And so you mentioned about like connecting with trusted influencers, right? You had someone in your community that you took like not advantage of, but like that you utilized, that you said, okay, this is someone in the community that's here to help students like myself, and I'm going to utilize this resource. I'm going to make sure that I am connected. And so you also talked about working with your college advisor. And so it's just, I mean, you're just such a great example of someone who is resilient, someone who is a go-getter, someone who is going to be like, I'm not going to let nobody stop me from pursuing my goals and my dreams. And I just love to see how, now you're here, like, and you're going to be making a difference for the community. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll let Juanes, I'm sure he has some questions for you and he has some thoughts to share as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juanito. Yes, I am encouraged and inspired by your story. I'm not surprised, to be honest with you, that you made it to, to the School of Education, and I'm not surprised because you mentioned two things that I think are really, really important for us to highlight here. One is you prepare yourself, and I think that when we prepare ourselves in general, whether that is life experiences, whether that is focusing on a goal or focusing on something specific, I think that you were ready for any opportunity that would come your way. And so a lot of the times the challenge is for us to be flexible, right? To think about um in this formatting, we're talking about like education, but like being able to be flexible and adaptable to maybe this didn't work out now the way that I thought, but it did work out, right? It didn't look like you thought, and I think that that's a really important skill that not many students and people think about, especially that young, because we're always assuming that we're gonna learn those skills once we are, in college or in high school and things like that. And you, your story really showed that there are going to be a lot of options, that you're going to have to make different decisions. But the more information that you have, if you have a support system, if you have your tribe, basically, that you are setting yourself up for success. So I really appreciate that, and exactly that's what you're bringing to the table. I am curious about, Juanito, about what so you mentioned that your degree is human and human human development, or
Human development and family science.
for those students that don't know what that is, or for those of us that don't know what that is, can you give us a little bit more information about what that is, and kind of like what your maybe a potential goal that you have with that degree to be able to do?
Yeah, so human development and family studies is basically a degree that prepares you to work with people. People that share different background, different experiences, that are vastly different from one another. And it really allows you to understand families, the individual itself, and the roles that are played within those, and being able to like take a step back and acknowledge the other people's experiences, and just being able to resonate with those, and being able to approach things with like compassion, empathy, and being able to be a sense of like an advocate, in that form. um as far as like, I will say this, there was one question I was asked. um it was at a job interview, and they're like, okay, so the School of Education, what is that? And I said, let me explain it like this. When you think of education, automatically the assumption is teaching, but like teaching, being a teacher, going to, being a teacher for a school. I explained that UNC specifically, the School of Education is more than just the title of the idea of that education is to become a teacher. Education is being able to, like I mentioned before, being able to learn about other people's experiences, being able to understand like the family, being able to being able to approach things with curiosity and willingness to learn. And that's something that I try to do every day with every situation, is remain open-minded, and being able to understand that this is why I was brought to this major, being able to understand that life does have its uphill battles. However, even when even when you don't agree or like things, you still got to approach it with an open mind and always keep pushing. And reflecting back on like life itself, I can say that I've done pretty well at that and still continue to do.
It's a lifelong learning. It's gonna take all life, and I'm so glad that you have that mentality of being able to accept that new information is going to come from, and just learning from other individuals to make things better. So I'm very appreciative of that. And congratulations to you that you finished most of your coursework. You just need
Thank you.
very little things, and the internship experience is a great opportunity to be able to do that. Was the internship part of your program, or was it something that you sought out additionally to your program? Because I think that's important for students to know that there are some programs that do require, and then there's some programs that you actually it can be elective. So tell us.
Yeah. So, as far as with the human development and family science, excuse me, major, you are required to seek out an internship. The school does a very great job at before you start your internship, there's a course where they'll prepare and get you ready for that. So they'll sit down, talk about like what are your interests, what are you looking to gain, and then they'll go through like various sites, and it's a whole semester course, and just basically just helping you find an internship site that'll best work with you and aligns with your goals and what you're seeking to do in the future. So that's something that is something good to note with the HDFS major.
Excellent. And I'm hoping that people, as they're learning more about you and your story, that they will connect with you on social media. So we'll share Juanito's CFNC social media so that you can see some of the things he's going to be working on, and he might share some of his own experiences there. But Juana, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, no, this is such a great conversation. I have so many questions. We have so little time, but Juanito, you talked about right, just all these like, I think you call it like what did you call uphill experience? Like, like life is a lot of uphill experiences where you had this plan and then you had another plan, like where you were gonna go to thinking about maybe UNC Wilmington and then UNC Greensboro or UNC Charlotte, I forget, UNC Greensboro.
UNC
And
Greensboro, yeah.
you just had to like shift gears and be like, okay, like, does this really make sense for me? And then you decided that, like, in talking to your family, that the best decision for you at the moment was to start at the community college, right? And so you got a scholarship there, you transferred, you went to UNC Chapel Hill, you got a scholarship there to finish, to continue pursuing your education. So I think about, right, like there's a lot of students, right? There's a lot of students that are facing similar kind of situations where they have all these options and they have all these ideas of where they want to attend school. But I will say, like, there is like a stigma a little bit of like going to a community college, right? And so like sometimes I feel like I broke up a little bit, but sometimes students really feel like I have to go to a four-year school, right? But there's so many different pathways. So what can you tell students that like are in your shoes right now, that are experiencing like, I want to go to a four-year school, like I don't want to go to my community college, or like students that are like, I have to go to the community college because I have to save money, or this is like the better option? Like, what can you tell students that are kind of thinking about like what is the best option for them? Like, tell us a little bit about that and how it made sense to you to like be like, okay, I'm gonna go to the community college. This is what makes sense.
So I will say, as I previously mentioned before, I'm very tunneled vision. I have like certain like goals at a moment that I want to meet. So one thing I would recommend is not putting all your eggs in one basket, just because if you do so, you won't have, I guess if you want to call it like a backup plan, or, a plan B basically. I also would like to mention, approach things with an open mind, look at different routes, opportunities, and weigh out the pros and cons. That's something I did, weigh out the pros and cons. Like, what would be the pros if I attended a 2-year school versus a 4-year school? What would be the cons? And just being able to, lay out those on paper, look at those, get whoever's opinion that matters to you, or, someone trusted, thoughts, and then you just have a conversation about it. But yeah, that's just something I would honestly just recommend, because like I do understand like everybody's journeys are totally different. We all come from different experiences, and whatever best like fits your experiences and where you're at currently at that moment, I really think that should really dictate how you move forward. And if that's like not going to a 4-year school right away, um, that's okay. Just remember, don't always put all your eggs in one basket. Always approach things with an open mind and understand that there are going to be opportunities wherever you go. Just seek out resources, seek out people who are willing to, provide you with connections. Utilize those. So that's something that I would recommend to someone. Utilize your connections, be able to, be open, transparency, and just being able to understand that.
Yeah, thank you. I think that those are really great recommendations, right? Because we talk to students often that they're just kind of like in limbo and like, where do I go? And so like my friend is going to 4-year school. It's like, I really want to go to a 4-year school, but I think it's important that students do keep an open mind, that they do keep their options open, and really explore all possibilities. Because in reality, I mean, community college, 4-year schools, they just offer amazing opportunities. And one of the opportunities that community colleges and some universities offer, like you mentioned, is that dual enrollment where students can take college classes while they're in high school. And so I'm so happy to hear that you took advantage of that while you were in high school, and that you found a way to be like, okay, I want to take honors class, I want to take AP classes. If this school that I'm at is not providing that opportunity, then I'm going to find a way to ensure that I can take advantage of these opportunities, right? And Latino students are actually underrepresented when it comes to, and when we look at the data for dual enrollment and those that are getting college credit, like we are underrepresented and these and when it comes to this information. So I'm so like, I'm just glad, happy to hear that you took advantage. And I'm hoping that students or anyone hearing this will go and talk to their counselors like, hey, how can I earn college credits while I'm in high school? Like, or I'm thinking about transferring to a 4-year school. Like, what's the process? What can I do? So thank you so much for sharing.
Juanito, something that struck me from the early part of your conversation, you mentioned something that is so crucial in that we need to do more of, and it is representation. You mentioned living in a rural county where you didn't necessarily had the image of what higher education looked like. However, you pushed through because your family believed in education, and your family wanted you to do different things that they were doing. You mentioned that they were working labor, and when I think of labor, like I remember my dad unloading boxes. That's the type of work he did before he retired. And I remember like thinking like physically, like I'm unable to do that. Just physically, I'm not capable of doing that. So representation, Juanito, representation, it's so important just for us to be able to see what possibilities are there for us. I'm thinking what else what would have been helpful, and I think you started mentioning like this is what I would tell my younger self back then, but you are now graduating from UNC Chapel Hill with your degree. What would you tell that Juanito that was visiting your parents' work, looking at the challenges and difficulties and the hard work they had to do to sacrifice so much for their families, and for what advice do you give to yourself? What do you tell yourself when you don't see people that look like you in those spaces, but you do have the ganas, you want to do it, right? What do you tell yourself, and how do we continue to show up in spaces where there are not necessarily many Latinas, Latine in the state of North Carolina?
Yeah, so what I would tell myself is stop comparing yourself to other people. That is something I'm still currently bad at doing. Whenever I see somebody, who maybe, okay, yeah, for instance, like in school, who are like in the same grade as me and who are doing way better than I was, I would always often compare. I'm like, oh, they have this, easier. Well, it appears, because I'm looking out, looking outwards. It appears that they have everything all figured out. They've got, parents who, went to school, got 4-year degrees, who have these resources, tutors, stuff like that are really setting them up for success. And then here I am, I feel like I'm way behind. So definitely quit comparing yourself to others, because it all goes back to realizing that everybody's experiences everybody's experiences are different. And I often believe that I was put in the situations I was put in for a reason. Because life isn't going to get easier, of course. It's going to only get, tougher. It's going to get tougher throughout your life. So you're got to be willing to be able to accept that and be able to just approach all situations with an open mind. But like the biggest thing I say is just quit comparing yourself to others and just realizing that you're capable of doing anything that you put your mind to.
Thank you. It's a great reminder. Thank you, Juanito.
You're welcome.
I love, love, love what you just said. Yeah, stop comparing yourself to others. Own who you are, love who you are, take ownership for like just your brilliance. Like it's like I love that. I love that, Juanito. And so and I'm so excited just to see where like you're just now getting started, right? You're just now getting started. And I'm so excited to see where your journey is going to take you. 5-10 years from now. So tell us what might that look like 5-10 years from now? What are your aspirations, your goals that you have?
Some goals. Well, definitely, I hope that my biggest thing is I really would love to make an impact. Well, let me just step back just for a second. So my main goal is I would love to become a social worker. I find that those are very beneficial individuals, very great advocates for people who are in need. However, another passion that I've recently started to notice within like the last couple, I'd say 2 years, is education. Something about that field specifically, and moreover, rural areas, has been something that I would love to make an impact in. I would really love to like start at home and being able to provide resources to students like at my the high school I last attended. Like that school, I feel like personally was something that wasn't the best funded compared to the other high school I went to in my county. And like being able to like look and compare like the classes they offered, like the first high school I went to, they offered so many AP classes. It was very well funded. And then when I moved over to the Wallace Rose Hill High School, it was a complete difference. So being able to make a difference in their lives, because I feel like I think that is just so important to be able to like, at least give students the sense of realizing that they can do something. And for the most part, I will say that high school did a really great job at always trying to make the student apply themselves and being able to work hard. Something I really appreciate that they did is like during lunchtime, just depending on where your grade sat, they would grant us like an hour lunch and like 30 minutes. So like say you had a certain grade that wasn't met by, this lunch and learn hour. If your grade fell below a certain level, you would stay 30 minutes and remediate with that certain class, and then the other 30 minutes would be your lunch break. But just being able to, I guess, allow students to take accountability, because you're a young adult at this time, and one main thing you need to learn about is taking accountability and realizing that you've got to be responsible. You've got to own up to your own actions, because actions have consequences. So that's something that I would say.
And Juanito, you're speaking my language, so I'm here like, yeah. And you're so young but so wise that you're seeing something that that is affecting actually like North Carolina right now. We're having conversations about investment in education. So it's really important that we continue to look at those opportunities to invest in our community and also make people accountable that, you know, that we as a community have different needs from other communities. And so kind of maybe the support that our students and family need may need a little different approach, or might need individuals that are, you know, culturally trained, or might need individuals that may, you know, sometimes speak a different language, or that may have a different skill set. So I'm really glad that you are echoing that, because that is a really important conversation that we're having right now in the state of North Carolina, and what that means. We're coming to a point, Juanito, where we want to continue learn from you, but I think we are asking very specifically for your advice. So Cafecitos really are intended to also share with students, with families and counselors, or those individuals that support students. And you have given us little pieces here and there, but this is your chance to give one advice for a student, one advice to a family member or a parent, and one advice to someone that supports students. Could be a teacher, could be a counselor, could be someone in the community. What do you have to tell us?
I would tell them to approach all situations with an open mind. I believe if you can approach anything with an open mind, everything else can fall into pieces. It may feel at that moment that everything's scattered all over the place like a puzzle, but if you actually like sit down, evaluate the situation, and approach it with an open and clear mind, it'll all come together.
So is that advice for the three of them?
It's for all three. I believe full on, like with my personal experiences, the people I've worked with, like even when I feel like my world's crashing down, like being able to approach things with an open mind, it really allows things to fall in place. So that's the biggest piece of advice I can give. Approach things with an open mind.
Ooh, I love that, because I can see how that plays into the student. I can see how that plays for the parent to also like think about, like maybe your child might tell you things that you have never experienced before. Maybe that's that possibility that you're talking about. And then also for counselors, maybe they're not used to working with a certain population, or they're not used to doing things that way, to come to things with an open mind. I love that. Juana, I'm gonna pass it back to you. Thank you, Juanito.
Yeah, no, this
You're
is great.
welcome.
This has been very, very great, Juanita. I've loved learning about you and hearing the consejos that you have for our community, family, students, and educators. And so I just want to thank you so much again for taking the time to have this Cafecito Virtual with us. We are so excited for you to join us and just be part of our CFNC en Español family. And so we are going to be working on some projects together to support students who might be interested in the transfer process, right? And so be in the lookout for that, comunidad. And so yeah, just wanted to remind everyone that if there's anything that you need when it pertains to planning, applying, paying, or saving for college, visit cfnc.org. We have so many resources and tools to support you through that journey. And we also have, remember, we have regional representatives that are in your communities, working with school counselors, educators, and the community to move that message forward. But just remember, CFNC.org is your one-stop shop for anything that you need for planning, applying, paying for college. And then CFNC en Español we are specifically focused on targeting Spanish speakers. So if you need any support there, let us know, and we are always happy to help. And if you want to reach out to Juanito, I've included his Instagram and Facebook handles here. But this is not going to be the last time you'll be hearing from him or from us. So stay tuned to see what else we've got going on for you all. Thank you, Juanes. Thank you, Juanito, for this Cafecito Virtual. And look forward to talking to y'all soon. Adios.
Bye.